Hi everyone, in the last part we talked about shooters and slashers. In this part we will talk about the best adventures on PS4. Prove the T stronger and let's go. Adventures. Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is a peaceful first-person exploration game set in a star system filled with fascinating mysteries. Its secrets are scattered across a fascinating kaleidoscope of planets, and all the many wonders look like scattered fragments that are difficult to put together, but their union is undoubtedly something more than just the sum of all the parts. In the center of the plot, Outer Wilds is a deep space explorer trying to uncover the mystery of a vanished civilization. The trick of the game is that the player has only 22 minutes before a supernova explosion occurs with the star, which will destroy everything. Then the timer resets, and in each expedition the player explores wider and deeper, gradually collecting a picture of the extinct species that lived here before and kept the secrets of the universe. At its core, Outer Wilds is an adventure, but this game goes beyond such a simple classification, combining a strong plot, interesting physical challenges, and fantastic puzzles. There is no cheap violence and banal systems like improving trees and pumping parameters, which is really original. God of War. God of War is one of the best games for PlayStation 4, in which we get acquainted with the completely new story of the eternally furious Kratos and can look at it from the other side. This is not just an action, but a real drama with an adult plot. And although the previous parts of the franchise belong to the beat-em-up genre and were parasitic on violence, here the famous anti-hero Kratos turns into a rude, peacefully grieving but still insane father. He travels with his son Atreus, and during the game he will have to fight not only real but also inner demons. The new God of War has even more action and meat, but now it all has a serious plot. At your disposal is a free world to explore, incredible battles, lots of quests, Easter eggs and hidden secrets. Even after you get through the main storyline, there is still something to do here. There are a huge number of additional tasks in God of War which you can spend dozens of hours to complete. Marvel's SpiderMan. There are a huge number of games about Spider-Man, but none of them can compare with the new project from Insomniac Games, the plot of which has nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're waiting for incredibly realistic flights on the web between the skyscrapers of Manhattan, a great story telling the story of Peter Parker, his family and friends, and most importantly the thrill of realizing that you are fighting evil. Spider-Man constantly appears here and there, an incredible open-world game or just an exciting movie story. His adventures have always been interesting to follow. The Marvel superhero game brought to mind is already available for purchase on PS4, as well as the First Blood edition, The Last of Us Part 2. The release of The Last of Us Part 2 was accompanied by scandals. At first, some time before the release, the plot details of the game leaked to the network, which undoubtedly spoiled the fans' expectation. Then a heated discussion broke out about the event that happened to the key characters of the series. Unfair, according to many players. Disputes on forums, curses against Naughty Dog underestimating the rating of the game on Metacritic. A lot was said about The Last of Us Part 2, and in the summer of 2020 the near-game media space was literally clogged with discussion of the sequel. Nevertheless, looking back, I would like to note that, despite the unflattering epithet that the project received, it definitely cannot be called bad. Yeah, there is a controversial plot here, but a lot of people were able to accept it, and almost 60% of gamers who launched the game reached the final of the story, which is one of the highest rates for games on PS4. In addition, the sequel boasts stunning graphics and animation, a rich combat system, and a convincing demonstration of the post-apocalyptic world. Ghost of Tsushima. The main character of Ghost of Tsushima is Jin Sakai, a samurai who swore to protect his native island of Tsushima. When the Japanese warriors were defeated by the Mongols who invaded Tsushima, Jin decided to save his home at any cost, even at the cost of betraying the laws of honor of the samurai. Rejected by everyone, he became a ghost who terrifies enemies with his invisible presence. Ghost of Tsushima compiled ideas from Assassin's Creed and the Witcher 3 series, spiced them up with the unique style of Japanese films, and delights players with beautiful landscapes that encourage them to press the screen screenshot button every minute. This is one of the best adventure action games in the twilight of the generation, and you guaranteed to get positive emotions from it. Marvel's Avengers. After the advent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, interest in superheroes has increased significantly. Iron Man, Thor, and Black Widow are recognized even by people far from comics, and the demand for games about popular characters exceeds the supply. In other words, Marvel heroes are practically not represented in the modern industry, unlike DC characters. Well, Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics have fixed this annoying misunderstanding by releasing a cooperative beat-em-up, Marvel's Avengers. Despite the fact that the game is criticized for the abundance of grind, it boasts an interesting story campaign and a large selection of characters, including old acquaintances like Captain America and the Hulk, as well as newcomers, for example, the charming Kamala Kane aka Miss Marvel. PS4 owners have another reason to get a copy of Marvel's Avengers. Only on this platform will the friendly neighbor SpiderMan join the list of characters. Maneater. Would you like to feel like a shark? The real one, the one that dissects the sea waters, and it's not about the eating carefree vacationers. Maneater gives you such an opportunity. In these games you will get into the skin of a shark and will clean the coast from annoying people who want to kill the mother of the main character. Maneater is hundreds of liters of blood, a pumping system, and insane tests, and also a serious statement on the topic of pollution of nature and a call to keep our planet clean and tidy. Otherwise, it may be too late. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The Star Wars game turned out to be interesting. The level structure peeped at by Metroidvania is a combat system copied from Souls-like games. The original story shedding lights on the events between the third and fourth parts of the saga. This is an exciting action game that can give a lot of pleasant impressions to those who decide to give him 12.5 hours of his life. Stray, the cat game about a cat traveling around the world in which humanity has disappeared without a trace, giving way to robots. You have to wander among the remnants of civilization, collect artifacts of the past and escape from the Zergs, aggressive creatures that cause the apocalypse. Stray very accurately conveys the behavior of a four-legged animal and will be a real gift for cat lovers. At the same time, it is a very pleasant platformer with simple puzzles and breathtaking chases. Until Dawn. Here you need to hold out for a long and extremely stressful night in a house lost somewhere far from civilization, and if possible need to lose all the characters controlled by the player. And it's easier to lose them. A hastily decision, an incorrectly executed QTE, the wrong option in the dialogue, and now the hero is already flying into the abyss or becoming a victim of a bloodthirsty monster. The best game in the genre of youth horror. Yakuza Zero. The same strange and again connected with Japanese culture, Yakuza Zero is a great game for those who do not know which part to start. The acquaintance with the famous Sega series about the charismatic gangster Kiryu Kashuma and his comrade Goro Majima. The main action takes place in Japan in the 80s. You will have to pay special attention to your well-being, on which the gameplay will depend. You will literally knock money out of your opponents and even be able to run your own business. And although the Yakuza series primarily tells about the brutality of the streets and the unprecedented actions of organized criminals, it is one of the funnest and most bizarre games in history. Launching it, be ready to plunge headlong into the depths of classic arcade games from Sega, like Out, Super Hand-On, Space Harrier and Fantasy Zone. In Yakuza Zero you will definitely find something to do on the streets of Tokyo and Osaka. Journey. Journey is a meditative adventure in which you play as a nameless wanderer traveling through sand dunes and solving puzzles from the past. Interestingly, during the passage you will be able to meet other players who, like you, will wander through the vast expanses. Together you can sing and dance, solve puzzles or just wander aimlessly. This is one of the most unusual multiplayer games of the last decade. Journey was originally released for PlayStation 3. The PS4 version features improved visuals and rich animation effects. Even if you have already played Journey, you will definitely want to try it again. The Last of Us Remastered. Incredibly violent action from Naughty Dog Studio is not a game for the faint of heart. The Last of Us is a heartbreaking game about zombies and the loss of loved ones. If Cormac McCarthy's novel The Road, in the film The Human Child by Alfonso Cuarón, had an illegitimate child video game, then it would look like The Last of Us. For all gloominess, it manages to remain incredibly beautiful and rich in details. Not to mention the wonderful acting of Joel and Ellie, the two main characters who survived the terrible cataclysm. The Last of Us for PS4 is a remaster of the original game, first released on PS3. The edition features improved graphics, increased detail, and includes a plot edition Left Behind, which introduces us to the story of Ellie in more detail. Shadow of the Colossus. Another remake, this time of the famous exclusive first release on PlayStation 2. Shadow of the Colossus is a serene but at the same time incredibly tragic story about a brave hero whose task is to fight 16 Colossus and resurrect a dead girl. During the passage you will solve complex puzzles and wander through the forbidden lands armed with a magic sword and bow, which will help to defeat unusual opponents. The remake of Shadow of the Colossus for PS4 features updated graphics that meet all modern standards with classic gameplay that has not suffered any changes. Astro Bot Rescue Mission. Astro Bot Rescue Mission cannot be played just on PlayStation 4. To appreciate one of the best platformers in recent years, you will need PlayStation VR glasses. But if you have them, this game is just a must, like other VR games like Super Hot VR, Moss and Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. Thanks to the fun moments alone, games with such a clear understanding of the purpose are quite rare. Here the developers just wanted to give you pleasure. Each level is a fountain of new toys, jokes and ideas. There are 20 of them in total, each of which needs to find 8 robots. There are also 6 boss battles and 26 test zones, as well as a game in the style of Crane where you can find game locations and collectible for coins. There is a lot to see and do in the game, and the number of interesting and unique ideas that the game gives you is simply incredibly generous. It's one of those games worth playing at least once in your life. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Ninja Turtles Are Back is one of the best beat-em-ups of recent years. This is a cool cooperative action game that is played just like in childhood, only with modern gameplay mechanics and a beautiful picture. A variety of locations, a rich set of melee techniques, battles with unpredictable bosses and an atmosphere of unforgettable adventure are waiting for you. If you choose the only beat-em-up game for your PS4, then let it be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Century Age of Ashes. Century Age of Ashes sends players into a world where endless battles involving dragons are raging. You will also have to ride one of these creatures to take part in exciting 6-on-6 online matches. The developers have prepared a wide selection of mounts, modes and arenas, and customization of dragons and pilots will surprise you with a variety. With all this, the game is absolutely free, so you can win battles without investing a penny. Ratchet & Clank. A huge number of high-quality third-person action games have been released for the PS4, just most of them are particularly cruel and have an M rating. If you are looking for something simpler, then you will definitely like Ratchet & Clank, which is a remake or even a reinterpretation of the first game of the famous platformer with shooter elements. The same people who gave us SpiderMan in 2018 worked on the game. Therefore, Ratchet & Clank has an incredibly bright world and insanely interesting characters at your disposal. Fluffy Ratchet and his faithful robotic companion Clank. It is worth mentioning all the unusual and funny weapons, shooting from which is still a pleasure. Detroit Become Human, an interactive movie with many plot forks and several endings, in which developers explore the difficult topic of artificial intelligence self-identification. Detroit Become Human will take you into the future, where you will play as a different characters caught in the middle of even the stirred up the world. It's up to you to decide how the plot will develop, and only your actions will lead the story to one or another ending. Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Sackboy: A Big Adventure is one of the best platformers for PlayStation, an unpredictable cartoon adventure in which Sackboy and his friends, if you play in a cooperative, they are trying to save the world of creativity from the villain Vex. The game immerses you in a charming handmade world, gives you genuine joy from overcoming challenges, makes you laugh with funny jokes and animations, and this is actually a great adventure. To complete all the levels, you will need to spend a couple of dozen hours on the game. God of War Ragnarok. Kratos and Atreus are back in the sequel to one of the best games of 2018 and the newest part of the God of War series. Heroes are waiting for new encounters with the gods of Scandinavian mythology, battles with unimaginable monsters, and exploring the series of the 9 worlds. The authors of God of War Ragnarok took into account the criticism of the previous part, so the universe has become richer, the combat system is deeper, and the list of unique bosses has expanded significantly. Well, the second part of the best PS4 games in the adventure genre has come to an end. In the third part, we will talk about the best RPG games, puzzles games, and races games on PS4. Thank you, goodbye.